The Holy Gospel according to St. John, the 11th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt down at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench because he's been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus looked upward and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. Let us join our hearts in prayer. The Lord be with you. Most loving and gracious God, you meet us where we are in our lives, and you continue to bring good news. So too open our hearts to the good news you have for us this day. Bless us and open our hearts to your love which will not let us go, your love which is stronger than even death. We praise you, O God, in Jesus' name. Amen. There's something amazing in this gospel text. There's something amazing that captures my attention more than other parts of it. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, yeah, Pastor, Jesus calls a dead man out of a tomb. It's kind of like, in the King James Version, it says, "He stinketh." I mean, come on, this is kind of dramatic. But you know what's interesting with that? That's 2 verses. That's a total of 2 verses of more than 40 verses in what's going on. This entire chapter is called the raising of Lazarus. We catch on pretty quickly about those 2 verses. But I think the most amazing part is what's taking place outside of just those 2 verses. What's taking place is God talking to us about grief. God talking to his people about sorrow, about the sadness, the reality of death. It's not glamorous, and often we sweep it under the carpet. We don't want to talk about it. We've been taught in our society so often not to show sadness, not to cry, as though that is some sign of weakness. But grief is real. Grief is difficult. And grief hurts. Many times we don't know what to do with grief. Years back, Corinne and I visited at a funeral home. It was a visitation. One of our adult members, she was in her 60s. Her mother had died. And so here we are talking with this lady, catching up and just sharing a few moments with her at the funeral home. And up walks one of her mother's friends. And this is what she said. "Sheila, you sure boxed up your mama right nicely." Okay, what do you say to that? Another time at a different funeral home for a different scenario, we walked in and there were lots of floral displays. And there were some floral displays that had plastic telephones on them with the receiver laying over and a ribbon that said, "Jesus called." I'm sorry, what do you say to that? Don't pick up the phone? Or there was the scenario of the nursing assistant who is caring for a woman who had just lost a baby, and she taps the woman's hand and says, "Jesus just needed another angel in heaven." What do you say to that? So often we don't know what to do with grief. It's messy, it's painful, it's uncharted territory for many of us. Yet this chapter in John speaks directly to that. Jesus in this chapter is speaking to you and me. Jesus loved his friend Lazarus. It's very clear if you read the Gospels that you discover Lazarus was a friend of Jesus. And so were Martha and Mary. These were special people. He was close to them. When Jesus arrives at the scene, Lazarus is already dead. He's already in the tomb. He's already buried according to customs and traditions. And his sisters are grieving to see Jesus, but they're also troubled. There's a sense of anger that's there just under the surface. Both of them end up saying, "Jesus, if you had been here, if only." How many times have we said those words? If only I had, if she had or he had only. How often in our grief do we drill down seeking to find fault, seeking to find a reason that things ended the way they did? Yet in truth, the person was sick unto death. Our actions, even if they'd been changed, would not have changed the end result. This person was going to die. The words of Satan in the Garden of Eden were a lie. Remember, Satan told Eve, "Oh, you won't die. You'll become like God." No, you won't. It's a lie. Death comes to Adam and Eve, and death comes to all of the descendants of Adam and Eve. How often, though, do we feel anger at death when someone we love has died? I was angry when my mother died in 2014. I was angry. She was 82 years old. She had been relatively healthy. She was slowing down some, but she was still independent. She went to the local hospital not once, but twice, within a week, with the classic symptoms of a bowel obstruction. And they kindly said, "Oh, Mrs. Rhodes, you're dehydrated," gave her some fluids and sent her home. My brother and I finally got her to the family doctor. I was on the phone. My brother was there physically. And the doctor said, "Well, Eleanor, we need to get you to a different hospital." He called, made arrangements. My brother carries her out of the county to a larger hospital. They diagnosed the problem within moments. But when they went to do something, it was too late. The damage was done. I was angry. Didn't change the result. If onlys leave us holding the bag. And then there's denial. Denial of the reality. Martha and Mary both were expressing this as well. They needed their brother. Remember, this is a patriarchal society, that a woman's well-being was dependent upon a man, either a husband or a father, or in the case of these two, a brother. He was dead, and dead meant dead. But they say, even now, if you, Jesus, a denial of what they were facing. Denial comes in many forms. It's easier to deny than to grasp hold of the hurt and the radical changes that your life is facing. It's easier to deny than settle into reality. And then there's sadness. Jesus asked where they had placed the body. Remember, Jesus loved this man. He's close with these people. He asks, where'd you put the body? And then John gives us that information, saying Jesus was greatly disturbed. Jesus is fully human, fully God. Jesus understands what it feels like because he's hurting. He's in the pain of sadness for his friend, and he weeps. He cries. Sometimes kids have picked that as their confirmation verse because it's really short, and Jesus wept. There's power in that, though, to hear that our very own Savior weeps over the death of one he loved. Now, this morning you might be going, well, Pastor, are you not feeling well? You've been up in the pulpit a little bit lately. Yes, I have been. I'm here today, though, for a reason, and that is this is where I preach funerals. I don't know if you've picked up on, often I will preach out here, but if it's a funeral, I'm in the pulpit. I'm very intentional in what I say at a funeral and intentional in how I behave at a funeral. It's a part of my grieving process because grief is real. And guess what? The majority of this entire chapter of John that we're hearing part of today, the majority of it is Jesus walking with you and me through grief. The Bible does not deny the pain over grief. The Bible brings it out to the forefront with reality. For many of us today, this particular Sunday is a hard day. It's All Saints Sunday. It is that intentional time when the church remembers those who have died in the last 12 months, people that we have loved. Coming into the sanctuary today, you had to go through the narthex, and there on the screen is the video showing pictures of people we love who are no longer with us. There's a net with the pictures of people reminding us of the cloud of witnesses that surround us, people that we loved who no longer fill the pews with us. And all of us probably are picking up on the various pieces of grief that we feel. Kubler-Ross and others have done a great job of researching grief. Kubler-Ross, they are best known for putting the stages of grief out, saying this and this and this and this. And it's great, very helpful. But the reality is that grief is not linear. Grief is kind of like this. One moment you're angry, then another moment you're sad, and another moment you're denying, and another moment you're accepting and kind of resolving, and then another moment brings it up and it all's there again. Grief is messy. Yet this chapter does not leave us there. Jesus does not leave us there. We linger for many verses in grief, but then Jesus into our realities with hope. While Jesus was standing before the tomb, Jesus offered a prayer to his Father in heaven. He ordered then that the tomb be opened, and then he did what only Jesus can do. He called Lazarus from the dead back into life. Lazarus hobbles out, and he says, "Unbind him and let him go." Jesus' actions at the end of this scene draw us to the hope of the resurrection, the promise of what Jesus is making real for us. Our hope is landed in the grace that God gives us in Jesus Christ. Jesus will go into the depth of death for us. And he is raised from the dead and brings to us the promise of resurrection for our lives. That cloud of witnesses who have gone before us, we celebrate that they rest in the eternal promises of God, that eternal life has arisen upon them, that they rest in the mercy of God, that they no longer struggle with illness of body, mind, or spirit, that they are freed in the grace and love of God and cared for and held by God. In the 4th chapter of Thessalonians, Paul wrote with great concern to that church and said, "I don't want you to be uninformed, my brothers and sisters." He doesn't want them to be grieving as people without hope. You see, that's what we get in chapter 11, is hope that speaks into our grief. The promise that Jesus is there with those who have gone before us and welcomes them into that eternal life, that they rest in God's grace and mercy, that resurrection has welcomed them, and we give thanks for that. Today we hear Jesus' words and hold on to them as the promise that eternal life has arisen upon them. Today our faith holds us in the midst of our grief, our sadness, our loss. And we turn to God with faith, and we give praise to God, who is the God of life. It's an amazing chapter. If you haven't read the whole chapter, go back and read the whole chapter. It's an amazing chapter. And in it, the majority of the time is showing us how God walks with us in our grief to hope. From grief into hope. Who are you grieving today? Who are you remembering before God today? And can you sense the hope that Jesus has for you and for all the faithful? Know that Jesus is by your side. Know that Jesus weeps with you. And know that Jesus offers comfort and hope even to you. Know that you are not alone. Trust in our Lord Jesus, even amidst grief. Amen.